Flush Robes, and today I have a special Flowmies and Friends edition, and I'm going to be talking to the one and only Rope Flow Joe, aka Rope Flow University, aka Rope Zaddy. I don't even know. Joe is honestly, I would say he's a friend of mine. He's actually the one who introduced me to Rope Flow when this was just like starting out, and he blew my mind. And after some time, I'm super, super stoked to talk to him once again. So, yeah. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for that awesome intro. So happy and excited to finally sit down and talk to you, go over some things,
Yeah, no,
just
same,
catch
same.
up.
Yeah, I know we're like both nervous and all of that. But yeah. Um, so I am so sorry. I'm getting calls. So,
No
when
worries.
did you start? When did you start like this whole like rope flow thing?
um, so now it's about 6, 7 years. Um, I was going through like a hard breakup, and part of it too was I was going through some head trauma that I was trying to recover from, a concussion. And my first love is soccer, and I couldn't do that really because I just wasn't like going out there and moving my body. So my legs and my leg strength and my balance wasn't there. So it was very depressing. Like not only was I dealing with mood swings, but it was depressing on top of that I couldn't do the thing that I loved and the thing that I knew. Like for me, when I have a ball at my feet, it feels like home. It feels great. So to not have that in that time of need was kind of sucked. So at the same time, I was like, all right, I need to keep myself busy and do something. So what can I
Yep.
do? And I started thinking like, well, I got a friend that's like moving a rope really weird. And so he taught me some things, and then I started doing some things with it. And then I started taking some of the programming from soccer and kind of using it with the rope and some of the things that I learned with the rope. And then I started seeing some other things that you could do with the rope that I didn't see anyone else doing. But I thought to myself, like, I'm nothing special. um, I'm just going through some stuff. I'm just trying to make something out of nothing, really. So I sat on it for a couple of years, and I was just
Nice.
doing this privately. And I was literally at my apartment complex, like this weird guy that would go out and it would flow and do all these weird things for a couple hours, and then take a dip in the pool, and then come out and flow until you dry in the sun. And that was like my routine for almost 2 years.
Yeah,
And
no, I remember seeing videos of you. You guys are just like flowing at the beach, and this is like earlier on,
that was
and
even
I'm just
before
like,
then.
wow.
That was even
Oh,
before the
really?
beach. Yeah. So like fast forward to like 3 years after doing that, like I was 4 or 5 years into it, I finally started publishing stuff on Instagram. Cause like even my friend that taught me, he's like, dude, like what I taught you, like it's not even the same shit. Like I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like it's something different.
Right, right,
Like you've
right.
been in your own little world for all these years, and like I don't know what the hell you did, but it's something different. And so we started like kind of going with some friends and sharing it with some people, and that's where I kind of got the idea. I was like, well, if it's this big of a deal to some of these people, and these people were like pretty big deals when it comes to like physical fitness and everything. And then for me too, another big thing is I tried to become a pro athlete. So I kind of know in terms of workload what you need to, where you need to be, what it takes to get there, and another big thing, what it takes to maintain there.
Right,
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 because a lot of people
right.
don't understand that for pro athletes it's a bare minimum level that you have to be at. And then even to be good or remembered as a pro, like you have to be constantly be pushing the barrier of what's possible physically.
Right,
So
right.
it's like you have to get to this elite level as a baseline, and then you still have to push that, the impossible, basically that baseline, which is nuts. So from that programming with the I took it to the ropes basically. It's like what is like this little progression, I guess you can do in terms of skill level, right?
Right.
And so with the skills, I started breaking it down easily so that way I could teach people, because I knew from soccer, like if you make it too complicated,
Yeah.
people are not going to want to do it. And that's also another thing too. Like for me, the way I learn is I like to be like on the barrier of like my like skill and challenge level,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I noticed a lot of my students learned. Right. So this whole flow thing, it was just a way of me like saying, can I teach a lot of people to see if there's some kind of like educational program that I can do around this, right? Because
Right.
on the other hand too, like I didn't want to be a fitness influencer. I didn't want to be touring and doing other stuff at the beginning. That's what I thought, right?
For
because I
sure.
just didn't
Yeah.
want to do that. There's other things that I wanted to do at the
Right.
time. And then as I started exploring it, as I started meeting cool people like you, not only just like indirectly and like I guess virtually like this, but physically too. And that was one of the reasons too why like I just started like making those hangouts, meeting people up with people is because like there's certain things that you could get, I guess like one-on-one in person that you couldn't get online. Like yeah, it was cool. For instance, like I'll give you an example of one of those connections that was really, really cool was Leo uh
Right.
Savage, right? So
Love
he was one of
him.
those cool guys that like honestly, like I'm gonna be real with you, like I'm not really big on like lifting weights or anything like that. I've always been
Hmm.
anti-lifting weights
Same.
because I'm more
Same.
like calisthenic, gymnastic strength. Growing up, my trainers did not allow me to go anywhere near weights because they were scared that I was going to break my growth plates and not grow. I never grew,
For
so it
sure.
never worked.
Right. For sure.
But it was with Leo that we like I got the idea. I was like, you know what? He's here for some like type of like leadership seminar in San Diego. And I was like like just going, I guess having a bromance over the internet
Yeah.
over like a steel mace, which is again something that blows my mind still to this day because I'm not into like mace and like
Sure.
I'd eventually like to get into mace if I ever did do strength training, but it's not like a priority.
Right. Right.
And so for me to look at someone and that's not like not it's basically he's doing something that's not attractive to me and he's making it super sexy. And that to me is like
Right.
you have to pay attention to that. You have to applaud that because it's not something that's of me or that I like, but he's making it sexy. And I noticed like kind of that in me. I was like, wow, I'm probably doing that to a lot of other people with the ropes. Like they
That's
probably
what you
didn't
did
think
to
much of
me.
a rope, but now they're seeing that it's sexy. And my biggest thing was like, how can I help? How can I be like Leo? Because Leo was already in the position. He was like, he was not only being that person where he was like kind of being that catalyst and showing people like how to flow with an object and make it look sexy and feel sexy and like do all that stuff. But
Hmm.
he was also taking the other step, which I wanted to take, which was seeing like, holy shit, there's these dogs. Sorry.
No, you're
He was
good. You're
taking
good.
the other step. He was taking this other step that basically he was helping other people become those catalysts and like making a living off of that. So he was kind of taking the spotlight off of himself and kind of sharing it with other people. And that was the thing that I really, really, really liked. And one of the things we talked about when he was here in San Diego was like, I was like, yeah, dude, I kind of want to be like you in the terms where like, I don't want to be the king of rope flow. I don't want to be the inventor, none of that. I don't want to be the best. Like that's the worst place for me to be in. For me, it was like, I want to be the king maker. Like I want to be the one that like puts people on, that helps
Right.
people grow, that do their own thing. Like if they want to do this as like a training thing, like you can make this as complicated as you want. I can show you.
Right. Right.
Or if you
Right.
just want to do this for fun to either like get moving, like if you've never moved before, like my woman Iris, like she had never ever moved before. She was like a fat girl at heart. But she'll admit it. I got her running. I got her doing jujitsu. She's not playing soccer. Even my friends that we're playing soccer with are like, she's never played before. Like, what do you mean she's not? She's never played before. And it's just the programming that I like kind of put in there with the rope stuff. It lends itself to so many other stuff. So when I was doing jujitsu too, a lot of the guys they wanted me to compete, and I'm like, no, I'm barely learning this stuff, but they see how I'm picking up the patterns
Yep.
and that's what I like kind of put in there very sneakily inside of rope flow is that there's these universal movement patterns that I noticed in soccer, that I noticed in other sports, and you feel them and you get those highs from working those patterns in rope flow better than anything else I've ever tried.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I've done like the mace stuff for a while. I did the club stuff. That was pretty fun for a little bit. I did some stick flow as well, but like nothing like the rope. I mean, it's super simple. It's easy to
I
fucking
agree.
store. It's yeah, it's
It
crazy.
hits different, you know. It really hits different. But I really like what you said about Leo. In my perspective, where I stand, at least in this community, I do see you and Leo kind of like same place. You guys produce people, and I think that's I think that's one of the highest levels of leadership is when you are producing people over being like the top guy. Because those are two different things. And
Yeah,
um, yeah, like with Leo and with you, I think a lot of people would agree with me that like you see him, there is something that you guys have in you that's like beyond the object, right? Beyond the mace, beyond the rope, that people are very curious about. And I think that that's what makes your flow just like something else. You know what I mean? It's different. It hits different, and that's why I miss you. I miss seeing your videos, all of that stuff, and like, we'll talk about that later. But my question for you right now is, um, the last time we talked, you were kind of like
Yeah.
my coach. You're like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And then for some significant time, we weren't able to talk, and that put me and a lot of people who like rolled rope or rope flow, in a position of like, well, I guess it's time to explore. It's time to do all these like other things. And so
Mhm.
now I'm sure you've seen like my flows, and like, Philippines is blowing up with rope flow as well. There's so many people,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure, because I know how you are, I'm sure you're like, no, that's not how you do it. I remember the last video you sent me, you're like, don't do this. This is not a thing. So please, tell me how you feel. And like, I'm totally cool with it. Like, like I respect your opinion, like all of that. But what you think about rope flow community right now, and how it's so different than like what it was when you were in it. Well, like when you were active online.
So it's kind of scary to me because like you guys are at right now in terms of, so it's kind of like the way, one of the things that I say is like it's all about the reps, right? And it's kind of like when you drive for the first time, it's hard as hell, right? You're super scared. You're like, oh, you're nervous, and like, oh, do I have my blinker on? Am I like doing right? Like, kind of like
Yeah.
that, right? And then after a while, like you get to the point where you accidentally go home. Like you're meaning to go to your friend's
Yeah.
house and you
Yeah.
end up home. Oh
Yeah.
shit! Like,
Yeah. Yep.
right? So, but it takes a number of reps to do that. So you have that programming in your mind, right? So for me, it's like, how do I how do I do that level of programming for things that this object makes me feel? So like for me, I experimented a lot with a lot of dumb things and a lot of dumb positions with the ropes. That was my 2 years, right? And I see a lot of people doing the same thing. They're just experimenting with what's possible, with what they want to do with it, with how it feels. Because when you, I guess, play within the parameters of what you see, which is like swipes and rolls and sneaks, you feel certain things. You feel certain highs, certain pulls in your body. Like that's what you feel. So you start thinking, well, if I try to do something a little bit different, you're basically trying to then break. That's like the next level, I guess you would say, in terms of learning anything. It's like first you learn it the way it's supposed to be, right? Like just
Right.
like when you drive, you learn to stay in between the lines. And now, like, really, do we like?
Right.
No,
Right.
right?
I
So it's
get
kind
you.
of it's the same thing. Like you develop your own style after you learn how the game works and everything. So that's where I see a lot of people they're at in terms of their growth. Is they were at where I was at like almost 4 or 5 years ago, where it's like they're trying to play with the transitions, playing with the moves, playing with the hand positioning. And like I learned, like I didn't like a lot of the over the head stuff. It didn't do anything for me. So when I see people do that, like it makes me cringe because I cut it out completely and very early in my
Mm-hmm.
experimentation phase because it didn't do anything for me. And then again, you also have to take into account like my background, my movement background, which is like I know when it comes to the waist up, I'm pretty much like a white belt. I'm like nothing. But when it comes to the waist down, like I'm very well versed
Dang. I heard
in
you
about
there.
the soccer.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
But
Soccer.
yeah,
Ball
right.
flow.
But so the only like way I know how to, I guess, use my upper body is in I guess in the perspective of my lower body. So I know how to use my chest. Like that's one of the things that I'm so mad about is I program myself in soccer so much that when you throw something at me, especially if it's right at my chest, I'll puff out my chest to like deaden it
Yeah.
down basically.
Yeah.
So like if it's a ball, even if it's like a knife, like I'm like ah,
It's just like your
it's just a
reflex.
reaction. Yeah, it's just a reaction. So for a lot of other people, like I don't. This is one of the things why I did Ruffalo University is because I wanted to talk to a specific group of like the of the community, the people that were paying attention a little bit more about like um like teaching in terms of, so like trainers, that those are the
Right.
people that I want, or the people that wanted to be trainers, because these are the people that were having kind of the same problems or would have the same problems as I would. So in where I'm getting to is like the overhead stuff, I was never going to experiment with that, or
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a plan to, but I wanted to create this structure, or at least this place where we could all kind of talk. So if you did experiment with overhead movement and it somehow did tie into the highs that I liked, well, you could speak my language somehow through
Mm-hmm.
this structure. That was kind of what was driving me crazy too. And at one time I had to separate the Rope Flow Academy and the Rope Flow University because it was two different conversations. It was one
Right.
teaching people just how to flow, and the other one was like, okay, are there bad habits when teaching this? What's the fastest way to do this thing? Like,
Right.
what is the whole purpose of this thing anyways? Like, other than feeling good,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
like, how does it carry over to sports and blah 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 and all this other stuff? And I was like, oh, okay, guys, that's one bucket, and this is the other bucket.
Right.
So
Right.
so for me, like in terms of style, I've come up with my own style for sure, and I've come up with my own restrictions for sure, because they I guess they program more into the way that I like to move and the way that
Right.
I like to move in the future.
Right.
The cutting out the overhead movement for me, like other than like wanting to do handstands, other than that, like overhead movement for me is not a big deal. Like programming that in
Mm-hmm.
terms of my lifestyle, whatever, it's not a big deal. And when it comes to other movements though, like running and other stuff like that, carrying my weight on one leg, like those things I love practicing all day every day, because those things I know I'll use. So the ropes is kind of the same thing, where I know I'm going to use swipe movements, so I practice those a lot. The rolls, I know I practice those a lot. The rolls though, where I cut off is I don't go up high, because in
Mm-hmm.
soccer, so let me give you an example. In soccer, when someone would come to you and you have your hands up like this, they could easily come in like this and just pull you or push you
Oh,
and mess with your base so they can get the ball. But
that
if I
makes
have my hands
sense.
here, if they pull me, well, I can push them away.
Right.
If they push me, well, I can push them back.
Right.
But I always have a connection with their body and the energy that they're throwing, the momentum that they're throwing at me. And also I have better positioning on the ball. That was always the mentality. So I took that from soccer. Just like in soccer, I'm adamant about not moving with my hands up here, always having them close, my elbows close in, because I realized that from spending like hundreds, if not thousands of hours on the field,
Right.
when I had my hands up like this, and especially me being a smaller guy than most of the guys that want to go pro, like most people don't know, in soccer, the build to go pro is about 6 feet and it's 180 pounds. I'm like 50 pounds short of that. And that's now. Like back then, I was even smaller. So right now, I'm 50 pounds short of that. And yeah, in terms of height, I'm like a foot off. No, I'm
Right.
kidding.
Right. Right.
But I'm like 6 inches off. So it's like, for me, I had to learn how to do other things and make the most of this small body, this fun sized body is what I call it. So that way I could make it to pro, because all these assholes that did have that build, whatever. And that's kind of what I take, that programming, that kind of mentality, that philosophy is like, how can the small guy, that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with jujitsu. It's all about like a small person
Right.
dominating
Right.
and kicking the shit out of a big person. And it's not about strength. It's just about leverage and technique. And that's what I noticed when I was training growing up, that like they'd put 80-pound vests on me and I only weighed 80 pounds, if that, when I was soaking wet. So you're putting all my body weight on me again, and then they'd put ankle weights on me, and they'd put like hand ankle weights on my
Just
hands, and then they tie my
wow.
hands behind my back, and I'd start to do bleachers with the weighted vest, that, and sometimes they'd even put an altitude mask on my face so it'd make it harder. So when you took off the
Wow.
mask, when you took off the vest, when you took off the ankle weights, and you let me play for 90 minutes, and I had half the body weight I was used to, I
Yeah.
flew, right? And in while I like was owning that, I guess that body that wasn't mine, right? Those extra, I guess, 100 pounds were on me. I learned how to move efficiently so I wouldn't. Because remember, even though I have this body that at the time with all those weights would weigh like, let's just say 200 pounds, and I only weighed 80 pounds, I still have only access to my 80 pounds of mass and
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have to move
Exactly.
those 200 pounds. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those basically those grooves, I started noticing they're solid positions. They're usually with your elbows tucked in. And then another thing is too, you can move from position to position. Once you learn the positions, you can move from position to position very safely with a lot of weight by just rotating. And you see a lot of that stuff in the mace movement, in the kettlebell movement. I've never done kettlebells before, but I did it once, and then I
How was
made
that?
their jaw drop because I was juggling with the kettlebells. Because growing up in Mexico, my family they would like go to the river and get water, right? So they'd get them on buckets and everything. So I know
Yeah.
how to carry a very heavy load, a load that's heavier than me, and then
On
it's
your rack
shifting weight too.
position.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know with the hydro core bag, right? By the way, Mauricio, I did a good job on that, right?
Dude, you know what? You are the reason. It's literally right here behind me. You're the reason why I picked up one, and I didn't get it till like maybe 4 months ago. So it's been that hard to get it. But I remember seeing you,
Because
and I'm
it's worth
like,
it. Because you did a fucking awesome job.
damn, he's probably making a buck off of that because that shit is
Oh yeah,
fucking genius.
you did
That's
really good.
genius. I love that
You should
thing. Do you
interview
still
him
use
too. He
it?
has a really good story. Huh?
Do you still use yours?
The hydro core.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't end up getting one because they were all sold out. He let me borrow one because he's here in San Diego. Remember?
Oh, I see. I see. I got you. I got you. Okay, you guys are all like same town. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Everything's
I
here in
mean,
San Diego.
uh, actually, I agree with you. But what's it called? Yeah, they actually just came out with
Yeah, you got me.
this whole like certification program. I think Leo's doing it too, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
it, but that's so cool. That actually makes a lot of sense. I was like, of course Leo's gonna do it. Um, but yeah, the last time, from what I know, you were like working on your whole like rope flow. I don't know if you were working on a certification of some sort, but I just remember
I
seeing
was thinking of it. Yeah.
a bunch of like some like mad scientists like drawings on your journal and
Yeah.
whiteboard. And you know what, to be honest, I never understood anything you were saying, but I would always just like read it or watch it, whatever you were uploading, because I'm like, I don't know what you're up to, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you're in this like black hole and you're just like trying to let the world know, but like we don't have the vocabulary to like understand it. You know what I mean? Like you were always like
Yeah.
light years away.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the rope stuff, after I started, so there's two ways to go about learning things. A lot of people, they learn, they look at me and they say that I learn like backwards, half-ass backwards. A lot of people say. And the reason is because I like to build what's called skill at feel. So you do something until you like basically can produce a result at will, and then you see what you start feeling with that result and with that like skill basically. And then from there, once you start playing with your own experimentation, then you look for bodies of knowledge that will kind of simplify and give you like formats or formations for all these little discoveries that you made. So, for instance, for me, like I got taught just simple swipes and rolls, right? And I couldn't even do ebbs in the beginning. It was too complicated for me. Because remember, in when I
Hmm.
first started, like I was going through like head trauma. I was recovering from a concussion. So like coordination stuff like that. It was a miracle that I got the roll, let alone
I
trying to do
know.
the ebb was a big deal. And it took me a couple of years just to build up to doing an ebb. Like that's where I was in terms of conditioning. And then I'm sorry, I forgot your question. What was your question again?
Oh no,
The programming,
just
right?
keep,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
programming.
just
Gotcha.
keep
There
going.
you go, the programming. So skill at feel and the theory, right? So one of the things that where I butt heads a lot with a lot of trainers is they knew the science. So just
Yeah,
like me growing up, I knew street soccer. I could hold on to the
yeah,
ball. Like you had to make me bleed. You had to put me on the ground to get that ball away from me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't know how to play the sport, the team sport, to move the ball around, all that. I had to learn that. I had to learn the language. I had to learn the tactics. I had to learn the moves, all that stuff. Like I didn't know there was an entire history of soccer before me. That it was a global thing, not just like a U.S. and a Mexico
For
thing. Like
sure.
that's how
Yeah.
small my freaking mind was. So that's where I was trying to get with this stuff, is that I knew that a lot of people were going to be putting in a lot of reps. And it's kind of like in jiu-jitsu, they say like, oh, it takes 6 to 10 years to become a pro or to become a black belt. Yes, that's true if you do it consistently, right? because
Mm-hmm.
consistency is key, right, over a certain amount of time. But if you do it strategically and in a short amount of time, right, and this is all the high performance stuff that you see now online, all the biohacking stuff, all the flow research stuff that
Mm-hmm.
you're getting into, right? It's all the optimal performance stuff. It's like, okay, yes,
Yes.
you have to do work regardless, and I'm a workhorse, right? But the question is, how do I optimize that work? How do I
Yeah.
get there faster, and not faster in the sense of like, oh, I want to cheat the system and get there faster. It's like, no. I just want my reps to count more.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That
It's like
optimal experience.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I was trying to create with Road Flow University. It's like, how do, and that was like the thing that I was kind of battling with, is how do I create my own style without saying this is rope flow, because it's not, because you can do anything with a rope, and that's rope flow, right? Because
Right.
remember, I don't own rope flow, and it's not, basically, if I say, oh, you can't do a roll up here with your hands, and if you do it up here, that's not rope flow. Like, I don't want to get into that. You see,
Well,
it is rope flow. It's just
here,
not my brand of flow. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I was
here's
trying.
the
What
thing,
do I
though.
call it then?
This is where I would have to disagree with you, because it's like, I think that's really like very humbling of you to say, but I think that you are, or we are, what the community says we are. And since you've been gone for a while, like, the community sees you as, this person that really made rope flow into this like next level thing. Because from my perspective, see, I feel like I'm a product of what you were trying to do. And when I was learning from you, I understood that this is a mobility thing, this is to be a better athlete, all those things. And then as I went on with my own journey, I kind of just realized, like, yes, this is a mobility thing, but then little by little, I was like, wait, this is also a creative tool, where kind of like you're talking about programming, right? Like, you are a soccer player at first. For me, I'm a creative first. So like, I'm a musician. I like to do art, things like that. So when I pick up the rope, kind of like when someone throws you something and you bump your chest because you're a soccer player and that's
Yeah.
your reaction, I'm more of like, how can I put my touch? How can I put my little like sauce into like what I'm trying to do? And so um it's starting to seem like um there is this like rope flow community that's like, kind of like you're talking about, like trainers, athletes, like all about mobility, being a better like human body. And then there's also like this huge community now that is like, we're trying to create, we're trying to express. And when these two things collide, when these two communities collide, because believe me, I'm somewhat in the middle. When I talk about this thing called soul flow, and it's pretty much like, hey, I'm doing this
Right.
rolling rope because it makes me feel so freaking good, because I'm going through a lot of crap right now, and this is
Mm.
my only time in the day where I feel like in control. And then I do all these like movements, right? And then I get heat from one community. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes they're like,
Yeah.
hey, you're not doing the right movements because your sneak has to be like this and like this. It's all about form.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, but wait a minute. I think that at this point, we're starting to realize that there are more or less two types of people that do rope flow. It's like people
Mm.
who are trying to be better athletes and just mobility stuff. And then there's also like the creatives that it's like, we just kind of move like, in
You
whatever
just want to move.
way. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of like what's interesting about what you've developed. Maybe you didn't even realize it, because yes, you were trying to do all these like mobility stuff, which is
And
so
technical,
awesome.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I've never, ever since you left, I have yet to seen anyone do the switches like you did, honestly. And you know what? It's actually like, people stop doing that.
And the thing for me is like, why can't anyone else do it? Like, I'm so small, and everyone always says like chicken legs and da, but no, I haven't seen it.
I I
Like, that's
I've
always
never
my thing.
seen,
And that's
not
why,
not
like,
at
for
that
instance,
length.
yeah, so touching on haters, I'll give it to you like this. So honestly, I'm gonna even out myself as like, I was one of those people for a while, because I didn't know any better and I didn't really understand what I was doing, because I thought I was like promoting or like it's because for me, like I'm a workhorse. Like I'm very like military. Like I like
Yeah,
locker
I
room
get
talk,
you.
all that. So I come
Yeah,
from that very hard background. So I thought I was giving tough love, and then after a while, I had some people DM me. It's like, dude, like, and because they looked up to me, and at the same time, I'm kind of like bashing them. So I was like, oh shit, bro, like. And the cool thing with me is I was very accessible at the time, and like I'd even like video chat with people, or even do audio messages, like so that way there would
yeah,
be no loss in translation, and like and they read anything wrong. But in terms of that, I can just I guess say that like part of the reason I did that too is like if I'm looking back and I'm being honest, like I was just really insecure too, like about what I was putting out there, and like people just doing something with it and it getting more, I guess, like more attention. Because at the time I was just like, even though I was saying that like I wanted to see what would happen, I was kind of expecting something,
right.
right?
I
And
understand.
so like
You're just being honest. Yeah,
yeah, and so if it wasn't happening, I guess that way, like I guess I was trying to force it that way. See,
right,
and I guess in one of the ways that I was forcing it that way was trying to be all technical and trying to act all cerebral and like that's not the right way. Blah, blah, blah. And for the people that I was around at that time, like it makes sense for me that I took that kind of. But
right.
after a while of reflecting and looking back and seeing like, okay, how do I want to put myself out there? How do I want to do things? That's kind of what like I guess I want to do now because like I know as soon as I get out there, people are gonna be like, oh, nice, they're gonna rename everything, right? And say it in
Yeah,
another terminology, and that's fine. And I'm just gonna be like, that's cool. Like,
yeah, yeah.
like
Sure.
for me, it's
There's
like
so many
you're
names now.
yeah. So like, think about it this way, Slush. Like, we started at some point in our flow journey, and like we're over here, like we're trying to put people on, right? And we at some point were correcting people's forms or whatever. People are
Right.
just in that point in their journey. That's kind of like the way we have to look at it. Like that's
Oh,
where they're at,
I see
and it's
you.
like
I see
it's
you.
kind of like they're like a
I
little
get that.
kid. It's like when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go through
yeah.
puberty and when they
Yeah, yeah. When your
that's what I
balls
mean
drop, you'll
about
understand.
reps. It's like when they
Yeah,
get older and when they know more things and they have a
yeah,
bigger
yeah. I like that. I actually like that. Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's, you know what? You couldn't have said
Because
that
it's more about
better.
them too. Because like think about it, like how. Because I looked at it too as like, what does that say about me? Like in terms of that I care that much about. That's one of the reasons why I started going more your way, more artistic, more creative. Because like, yes, there's. I guess I like to look at it this way. There's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to the technique and stuff, right? Because I mean, I guess the con would be like you take the flow and the soul out of it, right? And then the
Yeah,
artistic
yeah.
way, it's like you're just looking for
No
ways to
technique.
break
Yeah,
to break this or to like rename this,
yeah,
but it's like they both feed off of each other. Like that's the whole point of this. Like there's no bad or good. It's just opposite ends of the spectrum, and how can we go back and forth safely?
yeah, yeah.
And that's it. How
You
can
know,
we flow?
I totally agree with you, and that's why like I'm super stoked like for you to come back whenever it is, because I think like the community really misses that, that guy that's like, this is the technique and this is how it's done. Because it's a lot of like just open space for
Mhm.
interpretation. And unlike you, I was
Yeah.
never like too hard on technique, because again, I'm coming from like this like artistic place, like,
No. Yeah.
like express yourself, whatever. But yeah, like you're
Well,
right, it actually goes like hand in hand. I mean, sure, you can soul flow, but if you haven't developed the technique, put in there enough reps, like you said,
mhm.
for your sneaks, whatever it is, then it might be a little bit harder to express what it is, like through soul flow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like kind of touching on that what you're saying right now too is, so you also have to like I guess for me as a person, like I'm always real about like where I'm at in certain things. So for instance, in at least for me in rope flow, like I feel like I'm a black belt, but in my style of rope flow, it's kind of like there's martial arts, right?
Yeah,
Like that's a
yeah,
perfect analogy. Like, there's martial arts. Well, in my style of martial arts, I'm a black belt, but that doesn't mean that like I'll be a black belt in anything else. My skills and my training and all that programming might carry over to another discipline, but it doesn't automatically give me that thing. It might give me like an easier, I guess, not an easier, but I guess a faster path to mastery in that because I've already mastered something. So that's kind of what I wanted to create with like rope flow for people, is to understand that like it was a sneaky way for that the movement programming, but also like a psychological programming, that it's all about the reps. Like if you just do something long enough, you'll see all the patterns in it, and then you'll see all the patterns that like all these people that you look up to, like eventually any of us can get to the level of Leo's flow, right?
right.
But the thing is, we have to put in the level of
Yeah.
reps that Leo put in, which is crazy because he not only has he put in like, let's just like go ballpark it, 10 years of like solid daily flow, if not more, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, counting his seminars, his teaching and everything, like that's just flow on another level with the mace. Then you put onto it that like he's not stopping anytime soon. He's still continuing doing
Yeah.
that. So you have to catch up to his body of work, right? That he's already put
Yeah.
in up to this point, and then still somehow try to beat him or outpace him at his current pace,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
flow as good as him. Like it's possible, but the thing is, and that's what I think a lot of people see, I guess, like it's a something that I at least noticed, that I notice in other people. Like I can notice their body of work. I can notice when it's a labor of love, that it's been like
Yeah.
years, because you can just see it in the movement. You can see it in the way they talk, the way, like everything, like everything about
Yeah.
them changes when they're doing that thing that they kind of did all the reps in.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like when I'm talking to people, one of the things that I noticed too is like where are they in their row flow journey too? Like in terms of skills,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create a programming too, because I can't. I used to honestly overload a lot of people trying to shortcut them, be like, and trying to teach them basically at a brown belt, at a purple belt level when they're at a white belt level. And I thought it
Right.
was
Right.
good because you know what, if it's an accelerated pace, well, they'll learn fast and they'll get there faster. But no, I was actually putting in bad habits. I was confusing the crap out of it.
Right. Right.
and so it's like kind of understanding what conversations are you having with people, like that person that's like editing form and everything. It's like, well, is your form, first of all,
Yeah. Yeah.
like on point? And second of all, it's like, what do you want to get out of this other than just being a stickler about form? Like, what do you want to
Right.
feel? Like, what do you want to do with it? What do you want it to translate over to, other than you just like being a comment like hater? Not
Yeah.
like
Just like a keyboard warrior. You know what I mean? Just
yeah,
like hiding behind. Yeah, and I mean, I think we're fortunate enough that we don't have too many of that, at least in like the online community. I remember, several times you always got my back, bro. Like, every time I got kind of like bullied
yeah,
here and there, you just always have my back. So like, thank you for that. That's why I'm like,
yeah, of course.
I've always cared about you, like, like like your existence, like how you're doing. I was really worried because I didn't hear from you for a while. And I actually, I think I forgot who I talked to. I think, is it Kush Chief? I forgot who I talked to, but I was looking for you. And they were like,
I talked to
oh,
Andy.
this, yeah. And it's like, oh, his Instagram is this now. And I'm really sad, like, I'm really sad that there's a community that will, I don't know if you did, you like hide your other Instagram? Like, man, like I miss those videos, man. I wish people could see it,
um
that's history
so
right there.
yeah, I know it is history. I didn't delete them, but I did archive them,
Oh,
just
cool.
because, yeah, I archived them for a couple of reasons. Well, like I was just tired of all the copycats, and I was tired of like everyone coming after me too. And then the worst thing, the reason why I left too, was I wanted to make it clear, like these people were copying me, and if I was gone, they would have nothing to copy. And the longer I was gone, the longer it would be evident that they were copying me. And then the second thing was, the thing that why really I left was, I was just, honestly, I wasn't with everyone taking shots for me. Like
Mm,
I'm kind of like the person, like if you have a problem with me, come bring it to me. And the reason these people didn't bring it to me is because they couldn't handle me. So what they did to get to me was to go after the community. And so some of these people have respectable businesses, they have brick and mortar like places and everything. And when you're talking about like slander and this and that, and then these people paid thousands of dollars to have a licensing agreement, and like they had these training um programs that they went to, and they like basically built their or rebuilt their entire business plan around doing this training thing. And all of a sudden, like they're getting attacked just because they're like, and they weren't even on my side, they're just, they would do videos with me or and they were getting attacked, and that was it.
sure.
Or they had done a video with me. And another thing too that also like really got to me was like, not only were they taking shots at some of my friends that were established or like trying to get like onto another level, whatever. But they're taking shots at people that were just up and coming, like me. Like I consider myself like just up and coming. I'm not established. I don't have anything out there yet. But like, so for you to take shots at like some of my friends that are just trying to become trainers, that are like saving up money to go and
Right.
take your training, and I'm telling them, and I'm holding off training them, like showing
Yeah.
them what they could easily like save themselves their money for. So it just really sucked too, because like a lot of people looked up to this, this entity and everything, and it was really just bittersweet, because we were supposed to work together, do all these things together, and it just kind of went to shit.
Yeah. I mean,
And it
it,
was
it
just
sounds
egos
like,
and stuff, and I like, when people get to know me, they're like, yeah, we can understand why things didn't work out, because you're the type of person that doesn't like back down. And it's weird that you did back down and that you did leave, but it makes sense because it was the lesser of two evils. I mean, it was either I stayed and I kept fighting back, which would have been the easiest thing to put them in their spot, but winning wouldn't have won anything. Like, it would have been my friends again kept getting slandered, kept getting thrown like things at, and for me, like, again, I understood that these people have families, they have kids, whatever,
yeah,
like, and it wasn't worth me continuing the fight and doing all this stuff just for them to put that at risk.
right, right.
And then with
Yeah,
someone that again has nothing but time and money to do that, and he was showing that he was literally stopping what he was, like, his, like, he wasn't operating his business at all. He was just coming after me for an entire week.
oh
And that's one of the
wow.
reasons why I did the response, and that's one of the reasons why I came out clean about all that stuff, and I did the screenshots and everything, because like, it was after a while, like, the lies was too much, and that's why I left too, because I knew when I come back, it was going to come back regardless. But the more that I waited, number one, they weren't going to have anything to copy off of. And number two, like, it would just prove again that it wasn't like me that did anything bad. It was them that was trying to like basically do underhanded stuff, and I didn't allow myself to be taken advantage of, and that was it. And that was the other
Right.
thing too. Like, not only did I not allow that for myself, like, I extended that to anyone that was around me, and they didn't like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it's hard, I don't know, like, like just it's hard to have ideas that's kind of like just brewing in your head and then working with organizations, businesses, or other people who have something similar. You know what I mean? Like, and I can see that. I can see how difficult it could get, and like, like, I'm sure you mean well, ruffled some feathers for whatever reason. And this is like stuff that's like beyond me. At least for me, it's like,
Yeah.
you're this person that changed my life. You're the reason, honestly, you're the reason why I do this. And yeah, like, I think it's just all perspective and experience, you know what I mean? But even though that all of that happened, I don't want you to forget that, like, you didn't make an impact. You didn't set up this like avenue for like, I would
Hmm.
consider myself like an outsider. I was never like this fit girl or certified trainer, no nothing, but like, you got
Yeah.
me to feel confident in like this rope flow thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's you.
Mhm.
And you get credit for that
Thank you.
in my world. You know what I mean?
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, and so in my world now, I have this like little following, and we meet, and I just kind of pass on, like, of course, what I know, but a lot of the things in rope flow that I've learned, that also came from you. So there's like little like fruits of your labor, just like whether you are in the community or not, it's like it's happening, these like little flowers, like, they are growing,
Mm.
and we're growing a lot in the Philippines, I can tell you that. Um, but yeah, so
That's so
my
cool.
my no, seriously, like, these Filipinos,
Oh, I
we
know.
are
And you guys
crazy.
got hacked still. You guys got hacked. And you still. You see what I'm saying? It's like, wow. It's awesome.
That's I think that's gonna be another story. I don't want to put this on Zoom, but like,
Oh, okay, okay. We'll talk
I
about that later.
the purpose of the Zoom call, I really did want to just establish like who you are. I want to be able to share this video to the people in the community, like new people who have never heard of you. You are this like mysterious, like, who is Joe from San Diego? Who is Joe Flow? Who is Rope Flow University? And
Yeah.
I keep having to repeat myself, and so like with this interview, all I have to do is just like watch this video. This is like this is all you need to know. But like this is Joe. Um yeah, I'm just like super super stoked. And the last thing I was gonna say is, um would you be ever open to doing like a rope flow class with like, our Filipino fam? Because people are dying to like meet you.
To do a class, I mean, I'm down too. It's just we gotta keep it, I guess, simple because I tend to go
Well, it
for
would
a
be
lot
your
for
way. It would be your
yeah.
way. Or just like, how about like just being able
I
to talk
guess
to you. People like, dude, people like,
yeah.
we love you, man.
Well, I mean, part of the so I guess I'll tell you a little bit about how I want to come back. Just so I do want to have some gear, and I do have some designs and everything ready. So that's for something that's coming in. Like, I have some samples coming in like at the end of this month. So I'd for sure like to get people on that. Um, but I'm honestly like on the fence right now about doing the whole programming thing, and like, because on one end I want to do it because there's a lot of trainers that need or they want that, and that like you that want to have like the full technique thing from like white belt to black belt, and they want
Mm-hmm.
to know what it is. But on the other hand, like I'm all for like the whole free teaching and everything. So like I want to do, I guess I could do a class like on my white belt stuff on some of it because it's a
Yeah.
lot. Like that's the whole problem. Slush, like I can't like condense it into one thing. If you want like the true thing, it's hard. Honestly, it's in
Oh
bits and
no,
pieces,
I
and
I
it's
I
like
feel
so to
you.
give a class to people, like I don't want to give them. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to give them
Yeah.
a piece. Like kind of like I was. It's because like I know better now because before, like when I was active, when I was posting, I was figuring out the pieces. And in this
Yeah.
break, like I haven't taken a break. Trust me. I just haven't been posting is all.
Yeah.
So there was no
Damn.
break. It's just me putting together the pieces finally and understanding like, oh shit, like I was everywhere and I was making people go everywhere and I was giving them little tidbits. Like you were saying, like you would give me things that would like help me and
Yeah.
make me feel good. But now it's like I can piece them all together. It's like, oh, like these three things are the ones like for you.
Yeah.
And like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I want to do more is like have a class that knocks out some things like that for people. So like that, I guess for me again would be like the white belt stuff. Some of the things that I see like the rolls, that
Mm-hmm.
would be an easy class to do,
Yeah.
and just how
Yeah.
to cut out the up like the upper body stuff and just
Yeah.
do lower body stuff
Yeah, I
and
mean,
why too.
honestly, anyone would just like enjoy like hearing from you. I think that's what I'm saying. Like just being able to like see you virtually and be like, yo, like Joe is back somehow, you know what I mean? Because with everything that you're saying, it just seems like you got some big stuff coming up, and like, it's getting me excited about it because like I know that when you're focused, like you are really focused, man. Like you are so focused, and I know that it takes time to develop, you know, like what you're seeing in your head,